When you've worked the land your family built for over a century, the soil feels like part of your own blood. That's why when I discovered that the HOA in my town had illegally claimed and sold 1,500 acres of my farmland, I didn't just feel robbed. I felt erased. It wasn't just property. It was history, legacy, and survival. And what I did in response shocked every single homeowner in that HOA. If you're ready for a story that will leave your jaw on the floor, stick with me. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to QZ Stories, where truth hits harder than fiction. It started with a letter that made no sense. A notice slipped under my door, claiming overdue HOA fees on property I never agreed to join. At first, I laughed. I owned farmland, not a suburban house in their neatly fenced neighborhood. But laughter turned into disbelief when, 2 weeks later, I drove down to the county office and found records showing my 1,500 acres had been transferred, sold off, without my signature. I traced the scheme back to a group of board members who had filed fake liens, pretending my land was under their HOA's authority. It was brazen, sloppy paperwork, but it worked because nobody expected a farmer's property to be targeted this way. Neighbors whispered about a development deal in the works, the kind that brought money under the table. I remember standing in that office, staring at the word "sold" stamped across my family's deed. I thought of my grandfather who had cleared that land with his bare hands, of my father who taught me to plow the fields, and I felt a coldness spread through me. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to shout. I was going to fight, but quietly, the way they never expected. I hired a property rights attorney, a sharp man who saw the scam instantly. We built the case like stacking bricks. Forged documents, false liens, illegal, transfers, and corruption at the county office. Each piece lined up until the picture became undeniable. But here's where it turned. While the HOA thought they had cornered me, they overlooked a detail. Because they used fraudulent liens, those same tactics could be challenged, flipped, and applied back on them. And in my case, the law worked in my favor. My lawyer filed suit not just to reclaim my farmland, but to put liens on every board member's property. Court hearings dragged on, weeks turned into months, but I kept calm, never letting them see me angry. I sat in that courtroom like a man weighing time itself. One by one, their defenses crumbled. The judge's gavel struck, and the HOA was not only forced to return my land, but also faced damages. Their homes, those neat suburban houses with manicured lawns, were suddenly under court-ordered sale. The same red sold signs they planted on my land began showing up on their driveways. The day I stood on my porch and watched trucks pull up to haul away the HOA president's furniture, I didn't smile. I didn't cheer. I simply felt justice had finally balanced the scales. Word spread quickly. People who had once whispered about development deals now shook their heads at how greed had turned into ruin. Former allies of the board members avoided eye contact when I passed them at the store. My land was restored, all 1,500 acres of it, and theirs was gone. The soil beneath my boots still belonged to my family, but their tidy empire had been reduced to foreclosure notices and auction blocks. Some say I was ruthless. Some say I should have forgiven. But I'll tell you this. When people try to erase your history, when they try to steal what generations built, the only right answer is to write the ending yourself. And I wrote mine with silence, with patience, and with the law. Because in the end, the HOA thought they could bury me. But all they did was plant a seed that grew into their downfall. The judge's ruling gave me back my land, but it also left the entire HOA on the edge of collapse. Their homes, once their pride, now carried the same liens they had tried to trap me with. I stood on my porch that night, staring out over the acres that had nearly been stolen, knowing this fight wasn't just about soil, it was about power. And power, once challenged, always leaves a trail of unfinished battles.